Wow. Welcome, everybody, to the Order Sons and Daughters of Italy and America Facebook Live Series Season 4, Episode 4. And I am your co-host, Miles Ryan Fisher, the Editor-in-Chief of Italian America Magazine, along with Mark DeNunzio, National 4th Vice President of the Order. With us is Managing Director Justin Smith out of the National Office. And our guest is a very familiar face, Bianca Ottone of My Italian Family. And before we go any further, I have to let everybody know about a contest we're having. It's a very fantastic contest. It's the Family Photo Contest for all of the members of Order Sons and Daughters of Italy and America. If you're a member, you're going to want to participate in this contest. If you're not a member, then go on OSIA.org and you can find out how you can join a lodge in your area or become an at-large member. Then you can participate in this contest. This contest is fantastic. It's very simple. All you have to do is find that one family photo, and everybody has that one family photo. We won't be able to say that 100 years from now because people will have 1,000 family photos. Everybody has that one old family photo. I have mine right here. And those are my grandparents, great-grandparents, Alberto and Irma. And the one comment I get is, look at Alberto's hair. Well, he was known as Papa with the hat. As he got older, he wore a hat. Maybe it just sat on that hair right there. And for the family photo contest, it's open only to Order Sons and Daughters of Italy and America members. All you have to do is submit a family photo like that, and Bianca and My Italian Family has donated the prize, which is a fantastic prize. You get to choose the winner. There's one winner that gets to choose between a research package that goes 5 generations back, all the way back to the 1700s, that My Italian Family does. They research your ancestors at the genealogy behind it out in Italy, or you can choose to reconnect. They'll track down your living relatives, cousins, anybody who still lives in Italy in the town of your origin. They'll track them down and put you in touch with them, which is really cool. And I'm sure my mother is watching this wanting both packages.
Everyone.
I already sent that photo, Mom, so I don't know. I kind of robbed you of that. But Bianca, welcome. For everybody who's interested in the family photo contest and to learn more about you, you can go on OSIA.org. There's a big banner right on the homepage. You can click on it, find out the exact details about the contest we're having. And you can go to myitalianfamily.org and .com, and find out a lot more about genealogy, what we'll be talking about tonight, as well as dual citizenship, which we touched upon in the previous season.
Correct.
All right, that was enough. I don't like doing that much talking. I really don't. So we're gonna start with you, Bianca. Welcome.
Thank you. It's really nice to be back.
It's nice to have you. And My Italian Family has always been generous with the Order's members and really helpful with all Italian Americans who are looking for help tracking down their family. And, I've been one of them. So many people across the country are looking to find out more about their ancestry. Now, if you were a beginner, I was a beginner once. I remember what that was like. And where would I start? Where would I go to start looking into my Italian heritage?
Right.
What would you suggest?
Right. So the first step that everybody has to take is making sure that you have the exact town where the ancestor was originally from. So why is that? Because all family documents in Italy are only maintained in the exact town where the person was originally from. So whether your path is to research your family history or apply for Italian dual citizenship, you will always have to start with that Italian birth record. And where do you find it? In the exact town where the ancestor, the nonno, il bisnonno was born. So the first thing that we always suggest to do, and we do it for many, many people, is actually to research US sources here in the US that may list that missing information or may actually provide the exact information. Because how many times, our family thinks that, the ancestor came over from Palermo, Napoli, but maybe it was really not the case. They came from a smaller town within the province of Naples, the province of Palermo. You know how Italy is geographically organized. There are regions and there are these provinces, which usually are large cities, and then there are about 8,000 towns, almost 8,000 towns. So knowing the exact one is really key. So what are the sources that we're going to research here in the US to identify this information? Well, ships manifest, immigration records. You can find them. I would say that 75% of people who came from Italy came over through New York. There are obviously other ports like Boston, Baltimore, New Orleans. But ship manifest will actually most likely list the exact, the place of residence, the last place of residence. From some manifest after a certain year, you will actually have to go to the page 2 and look also for the town of birth. That's usually always an exact town. Plus the town of residence, we will discuss it a little bit later, but Italians are known for having settled in the same town for generations. So odds are that the town where they resided was also the town where they were actually born. So one is this, the immigration records, then naturalization records. Many people actually are researching those records in order to verify that they actually qualify for Italian citizenship. And so naturalization records will list in the declaration of intention and in the petition the exact town where the petitioner, the Italian-born ancestor was originally from. Those are the two main ones. There are additional records such as military World War I or World War II registration cards. They sometimes list the exact town. Census records are actually key documents to always check to see what the citizenship status of the ancestor was, but also to find out the year of immigration that will allow you then eventually to look for those immigration records. So always start from there. That will actually allow you to continue to go over the ocean and continue the research on site in the town where your ancestors were originally from.
Okay. Bianca, great to have you here again. You're a wealth of knowledge. And again, thank you for your generosity to Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America. It's much appreciated. What type of records are available in Italy and how far back do they go?
Yes, so there are multiple records available in Italy. Some, believe it or not, are now available online. Which is a great source for people who actually are passionate about genealogy. And sometimes, nowadays, more than 20 years ago when we started, are now available online to be researched on certain websites. And we'll go to that. So municipal records are always the best way to get started. They also weave a marvelous story. I'm talking about birth, marriage, death record, but also other records that are only available in Italy that can be found in the municipality. The reason they weave a story is because they tell you who declared the birth, which usually I would say almost 90% of the time was the father, the profession, where they actually lived. So remember, in the several 150 years ago, babies were born at home. So records, the address where the house was located is available on these records. From the birth record, of course, we research further back. So we will look for the marriage record of the parents of the ancestor born in Italy. And also in this case, you will learn more about the spouses, their ages, where they were originally from, because obviously you have to continue to check, to monitor that they were originally from the same town and so forth. So additional records available in the town hall that actually are not available anywhere here in the US are really like census record and the census records, and also the so-called demographics cards. Those are key documents if you are on site and you would like to identify living relatives. Those censuses list all the family group and what happened to all the children. They're obviously listing whether they got married, when they died. And the demographics cards are great because it tell you what type of movement each person made. If they actually moved out of the town, they got married. So those are really interesting documents to research if you're actually looking to research your living relatives, reconnect with them. Some of these municipal records, especially for the South, given that they started to be recorded so much sooner than the rest of Italy, are available at the Antenati website, ANTENATI.it. They're available also through the Mormon Church, familysearch.org, and you may have fun trying to find either through the indexes if they're available or through the actually records themselves, finding the gold mine of the ancestor born in Italy. They're also very important records. Sorry, I have a frog in my throat. It happens. They're records, sorry, like military records. Those are great documents to learn more about whether an ancestor served in the military. It will provide also some physical traits, such as how tall they were, the color of the hair, how, additional traits that you don't find anywhere else, but also tell you the any military campaigns that they did throughout the war. Additional, and continuing backwards, we go to the church records. Church records actually obviously started to be recorded so far back in the late 1500s. And you can actually find a wealth of information that may take your family tree all the way to the 1500s. Those are amazing records. So it's really based, and I think we will talk about it a little bit more in detail, on where your family was originally from, to be able to start with the one type of records versus others.
Okay. Justin, do we have any questions coming in yet? Comments?
Yeah, we
Great.
do. First, I want to say when Miles showed that picture of his great grandfather, it made me a little bit jealous. I thought I had a nice little chufo, a nice little coif, but I saw that and
Not the comparison.
it put me to shame. It put me to shame. So I know that tonight's episode is mostly going to be about genealogy, but a lot of the questions that I've been rolling in are about dual citizenship. And I know those two topics go hand in hand. I was wondering if you could just give a very brief kind of introduction, that if people are interested in that step, kind of going towards the dual citizenship, how do they get that started? What is the first way, the first thing that they should do?
Well, the first thing they have to understand is whether they qualify or not. And fulfilling qualification requirements is, of course, the first step. The qualifying documents are always the Italian birth record that will prove that the ancestor was originally from Italy, of course, and then making sure through naturalization records that the ancestor did not become a US citizen before the birth of the next in line child born here in the US in the direct line of the applicant. Most of these records, naturalization records, are available online through websites like ancestry.com, Heritage, Family Heritage, My Heritage, sorry, Family Search. There are obviously different qualification requirements based on which family lineage you are pursuing, additional requirements, whether you're going through the female ancestor. All in all, the starting point is also verifying whether a person qualifies. Remember, the naturalization process was a fairly long process. It should not be confused with the immigration process. It took about 5 to 7 years before somebody would become a US citizen. Many people never became citizens. So this is also very good as well. You have to prove that the person never became a US citizen. The second step would then be, once you verify that you do fulfill the qualification requirements, is to obviously start procuring all the documents. You basically go into your appointment to the Italian consulate by stating, I am an Italian citizen and I'm here to prove it to you. And how do you prove it? By showing all the documents, right? Linking you all the way to the Italian born ancestor. It could be your grandfather, great-grandfather, sometimes even a great-great-grandfather. So there's no limitation on the number of generations that you can actually go back, as long as the Italian born ancestor migrated away from Italy in 1861, after 1861, when Italy was unified.
Fantastic. And actually, our national president, Robert Bianchi, just wrote in. He was wondering, and this may be a difficult question to answer because I'm sure it's case by case, but do you have a general timeline on how long, maybe from start to finish, that process takes?
This is a very good question, which I have to confess really is based more on how far out appointments are available at the Italian consulate. You will only be able to apply for Italian citizenship at the Italian consulate that has jurisdiction over the state where you reside. There are 10 consulates in Italy. So you can, sometimes people say, but I can't find an appointment in Boston. Can I apply in Philadelphia? No, we can't do that. So let's assume that appointments may be 2 years out. So then you have enough time to put together your document portfolio, documenting every single event with birth, marriage, divorce, death record for each generation that actually link you to the Italian born ancestor. Remember, the process is made of many moving parts. Procuring documents is one of them, but you will also have, once the documents have been collected, and this is often overlooked, but it's extremely important, review them, list all the discrepancies, because remember, you have to link yourself to the Italian born ancestor. So all the spellings, first and last names, have to match the spellings listed on the Italian birth record. If there are misspellings in first and last names, differences in birth dates, they have to be corrected. So don't underestimate the importance of actually making sure that all inconsistencies have been corrected.
Okay, thank you. And one final follow-up question to that is, do people, once they have that appointment at the consulate and they go, do they get a decision that day, or is that something that they have to wait for and add that onto the waiting time?
So this obviously, I'm going to be go into the detail, but this is a fairly lengthy process. So as you know, some consulates are now making available appointments for people who are already ready because they have their document portfolio completed to go. But other consulates make them available 2 years out. So you go there, assuming that you've done a great homework, you've done everything possible to correct all the discrepancies. Your document portfolio is complete. There are no missing documents. Of course, you fulfill all the qualification requirements. Your application is accepted. And usually you have to wait up to 24 months. By law, Italian consulates have up to 2 years to issue an official response. Some consulates have been faster than others. Some consulates have actually not been able to meet the 2-year requirement, and some people have been actually waiting for 4 years. There are ways to get a faster decision, but they're costly. So if the Italian consulate has not met the requirements, you can actually go to Italy through the courts in Italy and petition for denial of justice. This delay has not allowed you to receive your response after applying within the legal time frame. These type of also denial of justice lawsuits have also been taking place recently for lack of appointments or extreme difficulty in finding one, or even the fact that now consulates, because of COVID, have been closed. There are some consulates that are still closed, but I always believe that this is applying for a citizenship for another country is not a fast process. So consulates are here to help. They will eventually open up their calendar also for citizenship by descent. So be patient. You will have the opportunity to apply as well.
Thank you, Bianca. You're truly a wealth of knowledge.
I hope so, especially on this subject, which is obviously should be our forte, right? This is what we do for a living, so we always like to be to have the most recent information regarding consulates, regarding any type of changes that may occur.
Well, we do have another question here, but I feel like, is it fair to play to the crowd? Maybe the producer can flog me later for pivoting on this, because it seems like dual citizenship is what people want to know about. And for everybody out there who's curious, even if they qualify, Bianca's website, myitalianfamily.com. You go on there, it lays it out. I recovered from it. Yeah, that's not as bad as the 2 throw errors I made in my baseball game the other night, but myitalianfamily.com. And if you go on there, they have it laid out it's very simple. You go on there and you can find out what you personally would require if you're eligible for dual citizenship, and who it would go through, what ancestor it would go through, and what it would require. Now, obviously, this was a hot topic with the pandemic coming on. It became even hotter. It became
Right.
scorching. And you must have been fielding so many phone calls that the phone must have been on fire. Well, of course, with the pandemic came a slowdown in the process. The whole climate, everything changed. Can you speak on the present state of dual citizenship in terms of how the process is going currently amidst the restrictions that we're still experiencing, and what people can do now for their cases? Because, like you said, the cases take a long time. So just because they might not be doing meetings right away doesn't mean people can't be gathering their materials, which is going to take a hefty amount of time to begin with. Can you talk about the current state of things with dual citizenship?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so the good news, and I think that Miles put it very well, is it takes time to put together your entire document portfolio. Luckily, now more and more offices here in the US are fully open. Throughout the course of the last year and a half, obviously many federal offices closed down. So the timeline to receive especially qualifying documents such as naturalization records that actually should be ordered both from the federal government as well as from the National Archives or from local county clerks' offices took a little bit longer to get. This is actually speeding up in a way. The National Archives office have now reopened. But then again, we have never actually experienced any delays in terms of gathering all the birth, marriage, divorce, and death records. Those were actually essential offices that always remained open, luckily. Even, Italian town halls, in fact, they became faster and faster in fulfilling the requests because they didn't have the public, right? So they were just focusing on fulfilling requests by mail, which was, certainly very helpful for us and for any applicant that actually started the process months ago. And then, of course, again, remember, it's not just collecting documents. Again, remember, we have to make sure that the portfolio is complete. So sometimes it's something that perhaps we can also add in terms of genealogical information, is that while in Italy, birth records really started to be recorded in town halls so early with Napoleonic records, the eras that actually followed Napoleon's requirements to start recording vital records in some areas of Italy started to be recorded in 1809, in Sicily 1820. In some states here in the US, you have records that only started to be recorded, birth records, after 1910. Believe it or not, in New York City, records that are before 1900s, they state that only 25% of the people, of babies born in New York at that time, recorded the birth certificates. So think about it. In Italy, you had to record them. You even go and baptize and thus record the records in the 1600s. So it's a very interesting difference, dichotomy between the US and Italy. So again, why am I introducing this subject? Because like we are saying, in some states, if a baby was born in 1904, there's no record of any birth. So it has to be maybe looking for the baptismal record in the church. Obviously, most likely people coming from Italy were Catholics. So in the Catholic Church, could actually add that information that is required, such as the birth information of each generation. So there are some obstacles that can be overcome with collecting other documents if you can find some required ones. And final, again, I'll say that one more time. Then there is the need to correct these documents. Some states are more lenient when it comes to amend records for misspellings. Other states are not lenient. You will need a court order to actually correct a record of a deceased person. We're talking about, for instance, Pennsylvania, Ohio. In New York State, not only you need a court order, not only to amend a record, but also to request a birth record of a deceased person. So it's a journey, and like I said, everybody, as soon as they actually learn that they qualify, would say, okay, so now what do I do? Do I go to the consulate right now? I have the consulate is right around the corner. I could go next week. And I said, well, it's going to take a little bit longer, and you just can't go in person. You have to make an appointment. So that's why it's challenging. And for those people who actually do it on their own, more power to you. It certainly takes a lot of effort.
Well, since Miles got to pivot, I'm going to pivot a little bit too, because we talked about this in the pre-interview meeting, and you promised me a good story. So I'm going to wait for that good story. We talked about, what do the Italians think about these DNA tests used to determine ancestry and heritage that are so popular in the United States? Because everybody in the United States wants to know where they came from in Europe. I mean, when they're in Italy, they know they came from Italy. So are they at all popular there? Are they useful in Italy? Give us what's going on, please.
Well, I had to research it because I was unsure whether, Italians think about it. I just said, we just discussed it, Italians tend to settle in one town and settle there for generations. So why should I look where I'm originally from? I know it, right? This is a little bit the feedback I always receive when I tell people what we do, right? Helping people find their roots. But the DNA test is not just to find out about our ethnicity. It's also the idea of being able, now that so many more millions of people have taken this test, these databases are huge, so you can find actually relatives. So I believe that if Italians are actually taking these tests, is really mostly to find out if there are relatives in other part of the world that may be related to them. Think about it. Migrations from Italy went to Canada, to Australia, to the US, to England. So we may be related to people in other countries with whom we've lost touch. And this is a wonderful way to actually be in contact again. Let's not also forget that people who actually were adopted would like to find out about their blood parents. And so this is maybe a way to find it.
Oh, good answer. Justin, any more comments or questions?
Yeah, absolutely. A few questions about citizenship, and then a question or two about the genealogy packages that are serving as a prize.
Yeah.
So your company, My Italian Family, and you had mentioned this a little bit in one of your responses. You said people, choose to do it on their own. if someone wants to be completely hands-off, is this a process that my Italian family can take over and aid with? Is it a mixture of them doing and you doing? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So we obviously like to offer options. So for people who want to outsource the entire process to us, we do everything. We collect all the required documents, we review them, we amend them, we support them throughout the process with making an appointment with the Italian consulate. We obviously legalize these documents with apostille, we translate them into Italian so that they are ready to go to their appointment with their complete document portfolio that they can present to the Italian consulate. We also like to help people who are willing to do a portion on their own. So we offer what we call the a la carte, where they can actually pick and choose individual services that are available online, from consultations, can be very helpful if people are do-it-yourselfers, from researching Italian vital records, remember the qualifying document, apostilles, translations to Italian. But definitely, we see sometimes people say, I can actually look for those documents, and then they start looking, all the obstacles. For instance, New York, how many people really settled in New York when they came here? So many, right? The court orders, how difficult it is to get documents from New York City. So it's a very lengthy process too. So we luckily have many team members who are lawyers who actually go in person when offices are open, so we can get these documents fairly quickly.
Wow. Okay, awesome. And one final question about dual citizenship that's come up a few times on the live chat is, people saying, my family could potentially qualify, but what are the benefits? What is a reason that I should go forward and do it?
This is a very good question. It's a big investment. And so it should, the benefit, right, should warrant the investment and should justify it. So the ability is basically the ability to live, work, study in Italy, but not just for you, also for the future generations. So we always tend to look at us, our children, possibly our grandchildren, but this is something that will continue generations after generations, as long as you will also be responsible to record every single birth and marriage of these future generations. So this is, to me, it's an amazing plus. You may not be able to use it because maybe you're not going to retire in Italy if you're already, not exactly a young person anymore. But maybe your children would like to work there. Remember, it's not just in Italy. It's you have access to all the European countries that are part of the European Union. So don't, this is also a fantastic plus. They can actually want to study for a while. So it gives options, opportunities. So why not actually take an advantage for not for you, but also for the future generations. Right. By the way, one thing I would like to add, remember, if you have minor children, they will become citizens automatically with a parent who applies. So that's obviously a good plus as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. That was well put. And now I'm going to pivot, Miles. I'm going to take from your angle, and I'm going to pivot. And you touched on it, Miles, at the beginning, the two prizes that people have the option if they end up winning the family photo contest. Would you quickly break those two prizes down for us and tell us what those two options are in a little bit more detail? Absolutely.
So there are people who may be interested to research their family history. So we tend to see, we call it the 5 generations back, starting from the Italian-born ancestor who came over to the US in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So we take it from there back, and that's why Miles mentioned it goes all the way to the late 1700s. So we research birth, marriage, sometimes death records, documenting, each generation with all the children. So you will see it's like an enlarged family tree with all the various siblings. going all the way to the 1700s. Again, and remember, we always start with municipal records because they weave a story. They can tell you what they did for a living, where they actually resided. Since this is also a research that it's done on site, we obviously take pictures of the town, the meaningful places, locations that mean something to the family, right? We go to the neighborhood where this old address listed on the birth certificate. Sometimes even the house is still there. We go look for in the church, the baptismal font. In fact, sometimes we have to also research some church records in case some municipal records are missing. This is one option that people can choose. They also may want to choose researching, reconnecting with the living relatives. Some people actually say, we lost contact with my grandfather's siblings who remained in Italy. We would like to know if there are any relatives still living in that town. This is also very interesting for people who are planning to travel there. And obviously the on-site travel certainly is more meaningful if you also know that you will be meeting some second cousin or third cousins. And in that case, you basically start always from the Italian-born ancestor, looking at the siblings that might have remained in Italy and bring those generations forward all the way to today's day. And that's what actually the final result is, of course, contact information about the relatives, if we find them.
Justin, it's been a very interesting show. Thank you, Bianca. Justin, can you tell our audience how they can become an OSDIA member if they're not already, so they can take advantage of this generous discount that Bianca offers to our members at myitalianfamily.com?
Yeah, absolutely. If you head to, it's taking a second to pull up my screen here. There we go. If you head to www.osia.org and click on the membership tab, you can find the nearest local lodge, or you can sign up directly online to be one of our digital members. We call them at-large members. Like Miles said earlier, right on the front of our homepage is the My Italian Family Photo Contest link. So you can click on that. It'll take you to a landing page with all the information, and all the questions should be answered on there. If not, if you have more questions, feel free to email us at nationaloffice@osia.org. And please follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Pinterest.
All right. And go ahead, Miles, take it away.
The good news about the family photo contest, there's only one winner.
Yes.
But the good news,
lucky one.
You submit your family photo, Justin. You may have Justin blast it on social media. Well, you may see your family photo sent out with the backstory to that photo. Please supply the backstory. You may see that sent out to everybody, all of our followers on Facebook, 80,000 plus people, Instagram. Your family photo. I'm lobbying to get my own family photo up there.
Here we go.
There. But even if you don't end up being the winner, maybe you'll get to share your story with a huge Italian community and be very proud and show it to your relatives that their family photo has been shown to the nation. So next week we have someone who needs no introduction. Gino Auriemma, the women's basketball head coach of University of Connecticut, a good Norristown, Pennsylvania boy, outside of Philadelphia. I grew up playing baseball against those kids, got spiked several times at second base. So it's a good tough town, the same town where Tommy Lasorda is from and Mike Piazza. So very Italian town, very prideful town. And Gino will be here to speak on everything Italian, on coaching basketball. And we hope to see you next week. Tune in, 7 o'clock.